I can't believe they finally made the perfect adaptation of Uncharted 2. And they didn't even need to adapt Uncharted 1. And they did it with an entirely different franchise altogether. But seriously, Mission Impossible Fallout is one of my favorite movies of all time, if not my favorite. I mean, just look at this trailer.
Maybe we need to reconsider that.
I can't think of any other all-encompassing action film that delivers such a wide variety of intense thrills. I love this movie and I love this franchise, and I'm a huge fan of the talented individuals responsible for bringing it to life, who help immerse us for hours at a time when we look up at that silver screen. And oddly, I was a little stressed going into Dead Reckoning because quite honestly, I was sure it would be an impossible mission for the film to live up to its predecessor. However, those thoughts melted away long before the first frame of the film shined out of the projector. Before the movie started, there were a few promo reels for Dead Reckoning that showed several extended sequences detailing the behind the scenes, the cogs and gears that need to be turning in tune with one another to bring together what you see on the screen. Christopher McQuarrie tells us how he brought chase sequences to life only after understanding the geography of the city they took place in. Tom Cruise tells us what it's like to maneuver a Fiat 500 on the cobblestone streets of old Rome. You get to see a half dozen cameras rigged up to a car the size of an average American, and you're just baffled at how they managed to get that contraption down the Spanish Steps. On top of this, the stunt work and scope of the film are brought up again and again. Tom obviously mentions how he is, for the 1000th time, going to put his body on the line in the most absurd, dangerous, ludicrous way imaginable, just to deliver a palpable grit and feeling of authenticity to the frame that makes it into the final cut of the film. Why? Why is someone on the verge of qualifying for Social Security risking life and limb like this? Why aren't we just going to the VFX sweatshops like every other blockbuster in the world? It's pretty simple. I don't think there is anyone on planet Earth who cares more about the movie-going experience than Thomas James Cruise. Video essayists, eat your hearts out. I'd like to see you base jump off a motorcycle, or do a halo drop, or break your ankle on a rooftop, or learn to pilot a helicopter, or willingly fall from said helicopter, or drive through traffic in some tiny-ass vehicle of the week. These are all things this guy has done in the past 2 movies. He is a certified freak in the most amazing and inspiring way possible. Cruise's and McQuarrie's love for the medium of film and their love of the experiences each film has the opportunity to deliver are completely infectious. And it's clear this love is spread through the entire cast and crew as well. Simon Pegg, Haley Atwell, Ving Rhames, Rebecca Ferguson, Vanessa Kirby, all of them love the process and the work they put out into the world. So by the time the opening shot even beams out from that projection room, that love has flooded out into the theater and you're fully bought in. Instead of my usual thought of, okay, let's see where this goes, that I tepidly have on my mind during the dimming of the lights, I was thinking something more along the lines of, let's fucking go! And I was not given any reason to stop having that mentality throughout what felt like some of the shortest near 3 hours of my lifetime. There's so much cool shit about this movie, I don't even know where to start, so I'll just go for it. The opening. It's a clear antagonist setup, but somehow manages to subvert expectations immediately, creating a tense scene that indicates a serious threat. And this threat is not only potent, but incredibly palpable with the world we live in today, both in a broader sense and for the film industry specifically. I found it very clever. The iconic, incredibly unique opening credits sequence overlaid with the amazing music from Lorne Balfe. It's so special to watch what is essentially a motion comic preview of all the spectacular and bombastic shit that's in store and waiting to be experienced later on in the movie. The globetrotting. Adventure movies may be mostly dead, but Mission Impossible is determined to wear their corpses like a skin suit and trick you into believing that they are alive and well. So many locations are highlighted through Dead Reckoning, and they're used so effectively to display what's unique about them. McQuarrie's comments about understanding his locations before designing his action sequences are so apparent and can be a powerful lesson to filmmakers and aspiring artists at all levels. The action sequences themselves are also just so engaging. There's always two things going on at once at a minimum, and it creates this beautiful chaos that's a joy to watch unfold. The most clear-cut example of this is the airport sequence in Abu Dhabi, but every single scene has underpinnings, twists, turns, and knots that unfurl and refurl themselves as they go. The entire concept of endless complication is served incredibly well by the film's antagonist and the nature of its themes as well. On top of that, I love that masks are a thing that get to stay in these movies. They're such a ridiculous concept that would be so easy to throw in the trash, but within the universe of the film, they just allow for so many interesting scenarios, fun encounters, and special sequences of deception that you can't get anywhere else. But even with its tension, Dead Reckoning manages to be kinda hilarious too. Simon Pegg is so gifted as an actor, and he has stellar delivery and comedic timing. He carries the brunt of the film's comedy, but there are other lovely character moments sprinkled throughout for pretty much everyone else. And in the vein of character, I love how well defined the core group has become by this point in the franchise. They have their roles in a technical sense, but over recent films, they've also melded together socially and emotionally, it feels like. Benji provides levity and urgency as well as practicality. Luther works as a center of wisdom of the group and has a steely resolve. Ethan is an unstoppable force of will who refuses to compromise his beliefs. And Ilsa establishes herself as a clear ally who is always willing to make the sacrificial play in the most crucial moments. Along with that, Haley Atwell does fantastically when it comes to becoming a fleshed out character of her own and integrating into the core IMF group. Her character stands on its own, but also manages to be a vessel for a really interesting bit of world building that has otherwise not been explored in the franchise so far. Again, just further emphasizing how Macquarie and the entire team are setting out to not only provide something functional and engaging on the surface level, but also something that enhances everything around it as well. The world building, the backstory given to Ethan, and the conflict of the film managed to give a degree of emotional depth that has otherwise been unseen so far in the Mission Impossible franchise. And since it's 7 movies in, that's really, really impressive. The other returning characters are also so much fun too. Kirby and her character's brother just make the world feel really lived in, along with the returning faces from movies way earlier in the franchise. Again, there's just so much I want to talk about, but the amazing climax of this movie has left me with one singular question. Has there ever been any piece of artwork which has not benefited from having a train in it? Don't worry, that was rhetorical. The answer, from what I can tell, is a resounding no. Trains make literally everything better. Don't believe me? Dead Reckoning, with a climax intense enough to make you forget that you had tensed your muscles 30 minutes ago. The first Mission Impossible, with its own climax. Uncharted 2, with an iconic set piece and cold open. Indiana Jones. The good one, not the new one. The new one is, TBD. Snowpiercer. I mean, duh, the entire thing's a train. Bullet Train. Again, the whole thing is a train. Spider-Man 2, with arguably the best live-action Spider-Man fight. Murder on the Orient Express, one of the goated murder mysteries. Ant-Man, it was the only good Ant-Man movie, and it had a train. Across the Spider-Verse, huge climactic confrontation with Miles and Miguel on top of the train. The first movie ever where those stupid fucking morons in the audience thought the train pulling into the station was gonna bust through the screen and ram them. Hell, without trains, bad guys with twirly mustaches wouldn't have any way to dispose of women they've tied up with lots of rope. If you're not convinced by those arguments, I will now do a stupid amount of work to justify this dumb theory that I have decided upon. Trains provide so much opportunity, particularly in films and adjacent mediums. They're a unique vehicle, pardon the pun, that provides the following. Confined spaces, both in the sense of the tracks and the cars in the train. These inherently create tension and stakes. Urgency. The tracks are only so long, and the train will always go faster, so our characters better get their asses moving. Weight. Trains are heavy, believe it or not, so every part of them is in some way or another a threat to our characters who find themselves on board. Scale of speed. Trees or rocks or wooden boards below whizzing past do amazing work to cue the audience in on just how goddamn dangerous this contraption is. Combined with the weight of a moving train, everyone knows that shit is now serious. Scale of size. Trains are really long sometimes they're not, but that can also be used advantageously. End of the line, nowhere to hide, you get it. But for our long trains, there's so much variety to be offered. Each car can hold something different, a new environment, a new threat, a new obstacle for our characters. All of these traits of the coolest mode of transportation are used with inspiring effectiveness in Dead Reckoning. Close quarters combat, urgency from a limited track against an out-of-control train, the heft of the huge locomotive, the speed Ethan Hunt and team need to work against to even get to the train, the varied environments and threats faced when things inevitably go haywire and become Uncharted 2. There's just so many tools at a filmmaker's disposal that we get to watch be used so effectively. And spoilers for 10 seconds, but come on what other movies do you get to see someone escaping through a flaming kitchen over spilled fryer oil just before it explodes from the burners, only to then nearly be crushed by a falling grand piano a la some sort of Looney Tunes cartoon? This is cinema, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Now that I've been talking about trains for a disturbing percentage of this review, you're probably thinking, Zach, you're insane. Trains don't prove anything. It's probably just that vehicles make for interesting sequences. To this, I say, wrong. Consider the jet ski. Thanks to Reddit, everyone should know that if you have a jet ski action sequence in your movie, it probably sucks. Why is this? Because in terms of the characteristics I described earlier, jet skis fail in almost every metric. They struggle with scale of size and speed, water is just water, it doesn't change very much as you pass by it, and it's a dinky tiny little vehicle. They struggle with urgency because it's water, and you can just kind of go anywhere. It's not really like there's confines to where the jet ski can go. They struggle with danger because, you fall off the jet ski, you're in the water. That's lame. So, a new scale, so to speak. Jet skis are worth 0.0 trains. Trains are obviously worth 1.0 trains. But this leaves a large gray area that needs to be filled. There are cars and bikes and planes, and they're all somewhere in the middle. How many trains are each of these worth? Where do you think they fall on the action set piece effectiveness scale, which is now measured in trains? Let me know down below. I find them particularly hard to place personally, as those kinds of vehicles seem much more up to the competency of the individual filmmaker in question. So, train rant out of the way, let me wrap this thing up back into super serious film lover character. Dead Reckoning is constantly firing on all cylinders, managing to force a feeling of adrenaline and tension into you throughout its entire runtime. McQuarrie and Cruise very well may be the Michelangelos of sculpting insane action set pieces that always manage to up the ante with each passing moment. Dead Reckoning is globe-trotting, it's jaw-dropping, it's awe-inspiring, it's armrest squeezing, it's just really, really good. It is chock full of action, of zingers, of stunts and beautiful visuals, yet somehow manages to find time for all of its characters, old and new. It gives them depth, which previously wasn't present, and uses a creative, threatening antagonist to highlight its theme. At the core of Dead Reckoning lies this conflict. Calculation versus emotion, logic versus feeling, control versus choice, manipulation versus empathy. And it's a conflict that you simply want to buy into. Dead Reckoning is inspired in every sense, a clear reflection of the love put into it by all those who worked on it. I have enough praise to fill a tome, and I likely already have. Every cast member delivers with every scene, and the film meshes together into such a great experience that is larger than the sum of its parts. It is, in my book, 4.5 out of 5 stars, and a must-see. Until next time.